So if you have a validated ticket needs to be validated. We've got parking stickers, and with that, it's 10:15, and we need to start back to our seats, please.
Well, if you'd like to take your seats, we'll get started again. Thank you. Okay, we'll go ahead and we'll start the renewable energy update, which we just did, so I got that one wrong. But the restoration of landscape update would be a really good one, and I see you're walking up there. So I really didn't even have to introduce you. But I think we're all ready, so if you'd like to go ahead, we appreciate it, please.
Thanks, Phil. You guys got the unluck to hear from me last time on kind of what we're doing larger scale with restoration and talk some about the restoration landscapes, and how Bill on IRA, a bipartisan infrastructure law, and the Inflation Reduction Act kind of play into all those efforts. Probably lucky for you all, we've brought Amber Hughes in, who's our state restoration coordinator. So her role basically is on our team here at the state office to assist us with coordinating all of those activities across the state. So for the larger portfolio of Bill, particularly the ecosystem restoration portion of the bipartisan infrastructure law, and then all of our Inflation Reduction Act funding and projects. So the majority of that is focused on our two restoration landscapes within our Gila district and the Arizona Strip district, but there's a variety of other aspects of the Inflation Reduction Act that play into some of those restoration and conservation activities, as well as some other aspects that folks might be a little bit less aware of. So with that, I'm actually going to turn it over to Amber so y'all can hear from the expert on this, and then I'll kind of hang out in the wings and hand out mics if it's needed to get questions. Thanks.
Thanks, Jerry. Like you said, my name is Amber Hughes. I'm the state coordinator for the bipartisan infrastructure law.
Can we get you a microphone?
We might have to move it to.
You have one?
It's the center.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Just a little closer to you.
Yeah, that.
Or you mean like closer to my mouth?
Yeah, closer
Okay.
to your mouth. Okay. Even if you have to take it off, you might have to hold it, but we'll test it out.
Okay, is this better?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Amber Hughes, State Restoration Coordinator. I came into this position in October 2023. And I'm going to give an overview of all of the projects that we're doing within the state regarding bill and IRA. We can go to the next slide. I first wanted to show you a map of the state so you can see where the different districts are. We have the, which maybe you all are familiar with, but I just want to give an overview. The Gila is in the southeast, the Phoenix is in the center, and the Colorado River is to the west, and the Arizona Strip is in the northwest, north of the Grand Canyon. So just keep this in the back of your mind. We'll go ahead and switch to the next slide. So I first wanted to go over the bipartisan infrastructure law, also known as bill. I'll give an overview of the Inflation Reduction Act in a few more slides, but these are two pretty large laws that are supporting projects within the state. The bill was signed into law on November 15th, 2021. And currently we've received a little over $21 million for bill related projects or bill supported projects. And I'm focusing more on the Ecosystem Restoration Program projects, also known as ERPP. And we also have a component of bill that supports fuel projects with the Fire and Fuels program. I will not be going into the Fire and Fuels program because that's within the program of Fire and Fuels, but I will be focusing on the projects that are supported via the ERPP. So we've received roughly a little less than $2.5 million for 14 projects. Recreation and vegetation and wildlife are the primary programs there. Sorry, my botany mind is kicking in. I also want to mention that all of these projects Bill Fuels, Bill ERPP, and then also the Inflation Reduction Act, IRA. A lot of these funds do go to some of the same projects. So I will try to point those out where I can. So we can go ahead and go to the next slide. So I wanted to show you this map again. This shows all of the projects, even though I'm not going into Bill Fuels. I still wanted you all to be aware of where Bill Fuel projects are taking place. And then you can see, and those are with the blue hashed out or the blue project areas. And then the green hashed out and green project areas are the Bill ERPP projects. And I kind of wanted to take just a moment to point out this area right here is the Los Angeles National Conservation Area. We also have the San Pedro Riparian National Area, and then the Gila Box Riparian National Conservation Area. They're kind of small, but these are some project areas where we're gonna focus. So when we get there, just want you to be aware of where those are at within this region. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So, and I guess the other thing I wanted to mention is Bill ERPP projects are currently only within the Gila district, the Phoenix district, and the Colorado River district. We currently don't have any Bill ERPP projects funding any projects within the Arizona Strip. Hopefully that will change. So currently, I'm going to start with the Phoenix district. Their focus is on resilient recreation, and we have 3 funded projects within this district. Starting with the Sonoran National Monument Sensitive project, the Estrella Wayside site and day use area. This project entails constructing new campsites and day use areas to protect and prevent damage to the natural and cultural features, and also the objects for which the monument was designated. This project will ensure that recreation use on the Juan Bautista de Anza National Historic Trail continues to be accessible, including travel by OHV, would be consistent with laws and regulations. The Lower Sonoran Goldfield rec site, staging area and perimeter fencing. This project is designed to protect desert tortoise habitat, plants, and soils by directing recreational access to designated trails, staging areas. And this will promote resiliency, reduce resource damage, and increase access to those trails. And then the last project within this district that's funded by Bill ERPP is the Table Mesa. This Table Mesa is located north of Phoenix, Arizona, which is probably, as many of you know, is experiencing exponential population growth and has led to increased pressure on public lands and management of this area. So this plan is to serve as a plan to balance the increased use with resource management and restore and adapt the recreation site to handle the current increased use and the future increased use. One thing I forgot to mention at the very beginning is if at any point in time you have questions about any of these projects, because there's a number of them that I'm going to be going over, you are welcome to interrupt me and ask for further clarification. I also will hold space at the very end for comments and questions as well. So I guess we can move on to the Colorado River District. We have one funded ER project here, and this is the Truxton Habitat Restoration Phase 3 project. This project is in partnership with the Arizona Game and Fish, and the project will implement vegetation treatments to restore and maintain the plains and Great Basin grasslands and the Great Basin pinyon juniper woodlands on the Crozier allotment within that's near Truxton, Arizona. The intent of the project is to release the browse species and leave approximately 10 to 20 pinyon and or juniper trees for cover for wildlife. And then within the rockier areas, they will, the intent is to release the grouse species such as clippers, Ceanothus to, I guess, support the wildlife species. Moving on to the Gila district. So this district has the majority of the funded Bill ER projects. They have 10 funded projects, and we can, yes. So I pointed out earlier on the bigger map, the Los Angeles Conservation Area. This is also known as the LCNCA, and there's approximately 49,000 acres of public lands within this area, and is also encompasses much of the upper Cienega Creek watershed. This area provides several habitat for several endangered species, contains 5 of the rarest habitats in the Southwest, including Cienegas, cottonwood willow riparian areas, saffron grassland, and the mesquite box and some desert grasslands. This area also contains 2 segments of the proposed wildland scenic segments. So moving on to the projects within this area. We have a bullfrog eradication and control. This is actually 2 parts funded for this project. And it's in partnership with the University of Arizona, and as the title suggests, it's to control the invasive bullfrog in order to protect the habitat and for 2 teeny fish species, and also for their amphibian leopard frog. Second component of this project is to monitor the bullfrog control methods and to gather information regarding the leopard frogs and how they respond to control of these invasive species. Beaver reintroduction. This is a project that is not only supported by Bill ER, but it's also being supported by the IRA funds. So I'll talk about this a little bit more or again later. But for now, this is in partnership with the Arizona Game and Fish. And the intent of this project is to improve the soil and water conditions in the Cienega and Matty Creeks by increasing sediment accumulation to reduce the incising river channel and elevate the water table and connect the river with the disconnected floodplains. The third project is invasive species surveillance. This was just recently funded, and it's 4 projects that are within the northern and central grasslands of Arizona. So they will go out and search primarily for the yellow blue stem grass and probably other invasive species, and take that information and develop an implementation plan of how they're going to treat that. Any questions? Good. Okay, moving on to the San Pedro Riparian National Conservation Area. This is commonly known as Springa. This area encompasses about 55,000 acres and stretches from the border of Mexico 47 miles north. This was the first national national conservation area that was designated in 1988. It contains rare desert ecosystems not commonly found in the American Southwest. There's many recreation opportunities within this region, and this water source is also a crucial water supply for the city of Sierra Vista, Fort Pachuca, okay, and other communities within the Cochise County. So we also have 3 projects within the Springa. This one includes a bullhead fish species removal. And again, this removal effort is to benefit the threatened and endangered species. There's actually a whole list of them here. Longfin dace, speckled dace, Gila minnow-top, Gila chub, sonoran and desert suckers, spiked dace, and loach minnow. And this will also help protect their habitat. The Springa in-stream flow and building drought resilience. This is another project that has received more funding. And it will be implemented through a good neighbor authority to proactively and sustainably manage in-stream flows and groundwater resources within Springa. And then the Willow Wash water gap fencing. This is again another project that's going to be supported by IRA funds. And I have an example photo further down in the presentation where this portion of funding will help construct those fence structures that go over washes that have the vertical moving components of the fencing. So when a flash flood and the debris come through, it goes through the fence and doesn't take it out. So, go ahead. And then we have the Gila Box National Conservation Area. This is the section that was kind of a little bit to the north of the other two areas. This is approximately 22,000 acres of public land and has 4 perennial waterways within the NCA. It also provides a number of recreational opportunities and is an important historic and prehistoric region for structures. Let's see. Okay. This next project within the Gila Box is a in-stream flow. This is to gauge and ensure adequate water resources are or the rights. Conduct stream flow gauging to ensure adequate water resources are assured for in-stream water rights in the Francisco River and the Eagle Creek. And this will ensure that there's continued water for flora and fauna and recreation within the Gila Box. And then the second one is, again, we seem to have a lot of yellow bullhead or bullfish in this region. This is again to remove them, to remove and maintain the habitat and ecosystem for the native species that thrive in that area. So moving on to the Inflation Reduction Act. This was signed into law August 16th, 2022. And this portion of the program not only supports projects that are going on the ground, but also is increasing capacity within across the Bureau, but definitely within the Arizona BLM. And it has also allowed us to identify these 2 restoration landscapes, the Sky Island and the Yonawat. And it looks like you all have like a printout of those 2 regions. I'll be going into further detail about both of those. But to support these projects, Arizona BLM has hired 2 district coordinators to oversee the projects that are occurring on the ground in these 2 landscape areas. And then we've also have brought on 4 natural resource specialists, 1 for each district, as well as 1 outdoor recreation planner to support the Phoenix district, and 2 park rangers for Phoenix and the ESDO. We recently brought on at the state office the data analysts, and we're in the process of hiring a critical minerals geologist for PDO. And also the state office, they hired me to help oversee this program. I came on as of October. We have a new contracting officer, grants and agreements, and human resource specialist. The funding also supports a water rights solicitor who's helping us with litigation regarding water rates. And then for future hires, we have the renewable energy, which Derek was talking about earlier, and also FAST 41. We're looking at hiring a number of positions there that range from wildlife biologists, archaeologists, planning and learning coordinators, land and realty. So it's a pretty big push to get capacity built to support all these various programs within the state of Arizona. And then we also not only have the vegetation projects that are happening within these two landscapes, we also have these other projects down here that other folks in the state office are overseeing. The one I kind of wanted to point out was the tribal cultural landscape study is actually a joint project with BLM California and BLM Arizona, and is looking at doing a study within the Colorado River corridor for cultural knowledge increase. So it's pretty big. So we can move on to the next slide. So again, here's another map of Arizona that identifies the Yanawant landscape and the Sky Islands landscape. There are 21 funded projects within this, within both of these regions. We'll go ahead and start with the Yanawant. Like I said, this is with the Arizona Strip District, and they have 7 funded projects within this region. Little background on this landscape is it spans 3 million acres and includes lands managed by BLM, the U.S. Forest Service, and the Park Service. It also contains an array of various vegetation communities, and it also holds special designations such as Grand Canyon Parashant National Monument and the Vajnawapaho Ita Kukaveni National Monument. I'm not sure if I said that right. What?
You did great.
Okay, cool. So yes, this region contains many sensitive plants and animal species. The focus of this restoration landscape is to implement integrated vegetation management projects, also known as IVM. The interdisciplinary workflow that the Arizona Strip District has been utilizing helps meet the multiple program objectives, including fires, fuels, range, wildlife, and soils at the landscape scale to improve the health and resiliency of this portion of public lands. So we can just keep it right here. So they have 3 project areas, and we'll start with the East Canal Creek in the northern section of the map. So this is a high priority area for, I'm sorry, I need to get water real quick. Okay, so this region is a high priority area, not only for BLM, but also for the Arizona game and fish. This is designated crucial winter habitat for mule deer, and it's part of the Kaibab mule deer migration corridor. The restoration landscape, as you notice, goes into southern Utah. As this is part of that corridor that takes the mule deer go onto the Buckskin Mountain within Utah. So within the East Canal Creek, 3 projects that are tied in with the integrated vegetation management. So I guess a little bit more background on this. So the biodiversity of this region is being threatened due to past land uses and pinyon and juniper and sagebrush infilling, expansion, and increased density, reducing forbs, grasses, and shrubs that support wildlife species that are out there. Since 2005, this area has experienced 8 wildfires that has affected approximately 88,000 acres of public land. And so overall, there's the need to improve this landscape is clear, in that we need to move these areas to be sustainable for wildlife and to help create a more fire resilient landscape. Before any of these integrated vegetation management treatments can occur, we have cultural inventories that are currently happening, and that's a pretty big task to go over 35,000 acres. And then also data, the AIM assessment, inventory, and monitoring is an important component, which the ASDO is collecting pre-treatment data at the moment, and will collect post-treatment after the vegetation treatments are completed. Okay, we can go ahead and move to the next one. The second project area is the UN Mountain Landscape Restoration Project. This is within both Grand Canyon Parashant National Monument and the Arizona Strip. Okay, so the UN project is has been a long-term project and began like well over 10 years ago. This area is an important use area for wildlife, including big game, and is home for multiple sensitive species. Existing conditions and portions of this project are also affected by past land uses, changes to natural fire regimes, invasion by invasive and noxious weeds, and of course, the expansion of the pinyon juniper woodlands and sagebrush communities. Between 2019 and 2023, over 15,000 acres has already been treated, with another 4,000 plus acres is planned for 2024. This project is nearing completion, and ASDO is utilizing the bill and IRA funds to finish the required cultural inventories prior to the IBM treatments. And then AIM data has already been collected, and they have prescribed fire burns planned. And this picture here was from last fall. We did a prescribed fire. Yes.
Yeah, and just to tag on to that, we did complete a 2,200 acre burn last week using drip torches and ESD machines. So a helicopter that drops a little ping pong balls, and it was a very successful treatment. And that was just last week, so
Right.
hot off the presses. So.
Cool. Sounds good. Awesome. I thought it was a joke when I first heard about those ping pong things.
Yeah. The fire staff at the state office did go out and get some good video, and there should be some good press releases and videos coming out that we'll share with all of you, I'm sure.
Awesome. We can go ahead and move to the next slide. So moving on to the last big project area for the ASDO. This Shibwoods Plateau Landscape Restoration Project falls within Grand Canyon Parashant and does include lands that go onto the Park Service side of the managed Grand Canyon Parashant National Monument. Okay, so this is a new project within the district. The NEPA was completed a couple of years ago. This is the largest of the 3 project areas and has 97 treatment units. GCPNM identified the need to restore vegetation in this area at the landscape level to improve biodiversity, ecosystem function, and fire resiliency. This project will require a lot of resources for the cultural inventory needs. Vegetation treatments across the board for Pier or other UN or East Camp Creek include mechanical, manual, herbicide, and seeding. And the the treatments are targeted to move the vegetation to a more desired composition, and treatments are going to take many years to complete. The treatment, as far as monitoring the currently that's happening in the next few years, plan is to continue doing rangeland trend monitoring. And the Park Service is putting in some experimental plots on their side of the project. And then also this is going to be included in the district-wide plan. Objectives are to enhance wildlife habitat cover. And then, like I said earlier, move the vegetation community towards natural range of composition to support wildlife and livestock. Moving on to the Sky Island. Perfect. So the Sky Island is a landscape of distinct mountain ranges separated from each other by a vast desert grasslands ranging from 3,000 to 10,000 feet in elevation. It is a worldwide biodiversity hotspot supporting over 7,000 species of plants and animals, including over half of the birds in North America. This restoration landscape spans 3.9 million acres in the southeast corner of Arizona and contains unique and ecologically important areas within the larger Sky Island area. And this also includes those the Las Llanudas, NCA and Springa and Gila Box riparian NCA. The landscape restorations will support critical wildlife migration corridors, linking Sky Island, the mountain ranges, and includes the international migration corridor between the US and Mexico. And this will support species such as jaguars and ocelots that I guess occupy that region. This area is also home to 36 federally listed species, including designated critical habitat for 15 species, and has 5 Audubon designated important bird and biodiversity areas. This project or this region gets has 14 funded positions. Go ahead.
Hi, sorry to interrupt.
No, you're fine.
Do I need the? Oh, thank you. Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to confirm that I heard that correctly. Did you say half of the birds in North America? The species, but that's what you said? Because
That's what I said.
didn't
That's
know that.
information that was shared with me. Like I
Wow.
don't have information to prove that, but that's what I was told.
I'm stunned. I didn't know that, but it's, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
They all go to Bill's Ranch.
Yeah,
With the Jaguars and everything.
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's definitely impressive, and we do have
Yeah.
people to support that, as Scott knows, their team is really involved with all the resources and all the partnership work that they're doing.
You know, I would just make this comment, that is a big deal. There's a whole industry down there developed around, bird watching, and it, because of just what you asked, it's a very popular area for migration, et cetera, so that's a big deal.
Thank you for adding that. I just recently got to go down there for the first time back in March and got to spend a little bit of time down there. It's pretty amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, and you can see from the map, I know we talked about this a little bit when I kind of did the overview at the last meeting, that there's not necessarily a ton of BLM land in the overall restoration landscape, like when you compare that to the Yanawant restoration landscape, where the majority of it is BLM. But the importance of those habitats and how they interlock with the lands around them, the biodiversity of that area, as well as the unique geography and habitat within Arizona, is what really makes this a special area that was high enough priority for BLM Arizona to kind of elevate it to restoration landscape status. Acknowledging that this is an area where we needed to make that investment.
It looks like there's a lot of Arizona State Land Department land in that area, so are there any plans for working with state land for something on their land associated with the restoration landscape?
I think we would love to make plans with them, but I can see that Scott wants to comment.
I can speak loud enough, but we work very closely with Arizona Game and Fish on wildlife habitat projects for both restoration and connectivity and restoration. We're working with now at the national level with Bat Conservation International, who's working across the country with BLM on a few things. We're working on specific restoration treatments with Department of Fire and Forestry Management across both state and private lands down there, particularly related to Sentinel landscape. State Land Department is not very heavily engaged with us in many of those activities. Actually, not all.
which is something that we would love to change. We have had a preliminary meeting with the new, well, not new anymore, but with the state land commissioner. Kind of have had kind of some preliminary conversation about whether it might be opportunities to partner going forward with their agency as well as the other state agencies that Scott seems already working with.
Great questions, great comment, thank you. Okay, so I'll be kind of sharing some of the similar maps that I've already shared with you, just to remind you of where we're at in the landscape. We'll start with the projects that are funded by IRA within the SPRINCA. There are actually 4 projects in here that I'll go over. With the first project, the AIM data collection, the AIM projects or plots have already, this is a project we can say we completed. And they went into this area, collected data from 20 locations and is now being utilized to create an implementation plan for vegetation management within SPRINCA. The next project with the Three Brothers herbicide, this is to reduce shrub encroachment on 763 acres within the Three Brothers allotment. This project will help improve watershed health and drought resilience. And then the SPRINCA fence installation, I mentioned this earlier, is a project that was being funded also by Bill. This is 93 miles to encompass the entire SPRINCA, and there are 122 watercraft structures, which is this. I described that earlier, that allows flooding and debris to move through without taking out the fence, or at least hopefully not taking the fence. We can go ahead and shift to the 4th. This is the project that I think is like a pretty complex component, has many components to it. This is a project that is in conjunction with the USGS, US Geological Survey. And we have a memorandum of understanding with them, which is a plan to collect. I don't know if I really need to go through all 8 components of this, but I could.
A little short on time, so
Okay.
give them the Reader's Digest.
Right, okay, so they're basically collecting a lot of information on groundwater, water and surface water. And to see what is going on at a deeper level within the SPRINCA. And also collect riparian ecology information. And they're feeding this information into a model that is created by the USGS to provide basically information about the hydrology within SPRINCA. So like I mentioned earlier, this is a pretty important water source for those communities that surround that area. Move on to the next one. Okay, so back with the Las Ciénegas National Conservation Area. I've already kind of mentioned that we've been doing a bit of yellow bluestem surveys in this region. This is also happening within the LCNCA. And after the surveys are completed, then an implementation plan will be put in place to support removing those plants. And then also the beaver reintroduction. This is supports the other project that I mentioned as well with Bill ER. The plan is to install these beaver dam analog this winter with Arizona Game and Fish, and then in next spring introduce pairs or families of beaver into the region to further develop, making those BDAs, I guess, their home. And we have the pond maintenance. These are wildlife ponds that support several special status species. And these ponds were created at existing wells and run on pumps. And the project proposal is to dredge out these ponds to maintain the open water habitat that's required by these species. And this will require some consultation with the US Fish and Wildlife Service. We can go ahead and skip to the fourth project. Wait, let's go back one more. Okay, so this is a watershed assessment project that Gila is taking on to survey and map all of the erosion areas within the watershed. And this will help determine what kind of structures they need, particularly for those areas where there's high erosion occurring. That are kind of mostly around like recreation trails. So. Move on to the Gila box. Okay. So, yes, same map as before, so we can move to the next slide. Okay. So this is a fairly small project, but has good meaning behind it. This is to install a fence that will separate the San Carlos tribe and the city of Safford that borders Sprica, or excuse me, the Gila box. And then the next project, which is the water wildlife fence. Currently, we have fencing that has barbed wire around wildlife waters that we want to replace to be smooth pipe rail. So it's more friendly for wildlife, but keeps livestock from entering into these areas. And then the last project is this Redfield Canyon Wilderness Water Rights. This is a project that's also with the USGS to collect hydrologic data. This information is required by the Arizona Department of Water Resources and will add needed information that we're required to get due to litigation. And this is to collect hydrology information from a section of the streams within the Redfield Canyon Wilderness area that's a little less than 5 miles. But this is to ensure that we have enough water to ensure the wilderness characteristics of this area. And then these are the stakeholders that we work with across the state for all of these projects or majority of these projects. The one that I didn't see on here was Arizona State University, so I definitely wanted to acknowledge that they helped us with some projects. And with that, our last slide, open for questions or further comments.
Do we have any questions?
Bill, before we jump into questions real quick, if I could just add, so the water rights kind of related monitoring, and I know Amber mentioned that there's funding from IRA going towards fund a water rights solicitor. And so that litigation that you mentioned in a couple of instances really is the adjudication process as the state special master is working through adjudicating all the variety of water rights in these different watersheds. So it's not necessarily litigation where BLM is being sued because of something that we proposed. It's more just working through that adjudication process, which takes the form of litigation.
Do we have any other questions? Great presentation. I didn't know that you were doing all those things. My ranch is on one of your maps. I'm worried I'm gonna run home and find out what you guys are up to.
You're flying around your ranch.
Yeah, I know. That's it. I thought they were HOVs, but they're BLM people. Anyway, that was great, and it's good that you keep us up to date on those things because we're at in various communities. We don't necessarily know all those things. It affects all of us. If there's no more questions, Jerry, you want to go on with that?
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thanks, Taylor.
I know we're right up against, so we're gonna roll kind of right into our next presentation, which is another topic, recreation and particular blueprint and how we're implementing that here in Arizona and how that ties to the business plans that you're gonna be hearing about from BLM Arizona over our next couple of meetings following this one. So I gave you all and kind of an overview on what we're doing and how it relates to a variety of different things across the state at the last meeting, but again, I'm gonna turn it over to Miley, who will again talk to you as she did last time about kind of more of the details and specifics about how we're doing that here in Arizona and kind of our process, the different things that we're working on.
Thank you. So as Jerry said, my name is Miley Adler. I'm the Recreation Program Lead for BLM Arizona. Excited to have some time with you again today. I know there's a recreation heavy focus agenda these meetings, so I won't have as many slides as Amber, but I wanted to give you the update of what's going on. Next slide, please. So the big thing for recreation in Arizona and across the Bureau is implementing our new strategy, which is called the Blueprint for 21st Century Outdoor Recreation. And so the initiatives that we're doing here in Arizona, I'm going to walk through some of those so that you have a sense of how we're implementing the blueprint here. That includes an update on the business plans that we talked about last time we met to meet those investment needs in recreation. I'm going to talk about new technologies that we're going to be that we have implemented and continue to evolve for fee collection at those fee sites. And then I'm also going to give you an update on, it's called Recreation and Permit Online Reporting, or RACTR for short. And what I'll talk about what that is, and then also give you an update on where we're at with our travel management plans across the state. But in short, I just want to let you know that we are doing an incredible amount of work to implement the blueprint. So if you haven't seen the blueprint, I think you got a copy last time you were here, but just wanted to remind you, this establishes our vision, which is to provide, sorry, I can't see the glasses hanging there. Establish a new vision to proactively manage for exceptional and unique recreational experiences that invite all to share in the enjoyment and stewardship of their public lands. And so how we do that is through these 4 pillars. So as we walk through some of these initiatives, I'll just sort of refer back to which pillar is being implemented. Next slide, please. So we'll start with pillar 1, which is grow and diversify resources for recreation. And how we're doing that, you know, Amber just talked about the Inflation Reduction Act and some of the funds that Arizona received through that act. We use to build capacity within our program. So we are hiring positions. One of those positions is here in Phoenix, and it's an outdoor recreation planner position. And he's done an outstanding job of assessing, you know, what are those opportunities to establish fees where we meet the criteria of FLRIA at those recreation sites. And then he's also helping, along with his team, other offices complete those assessments and write these fee proposals, which for BLM comes in the form of a business plan. So that kind of gets to that green box. So I talked about the IRA funding. The green box is ensuring that we're setting those recreation fees appropriately. And we talked a lot about that the last time, so I won't dig into the details of that, but we certainly can with any questions. And then lastly, you know, expanding use of new fee collection technologies. So all of those things are supporting implementation of pillar 1. Next slide, please. So just a reminder of why these fee proposals are so important to the BLM right now. You know, I touched on this last time, but visitation has climbed from 4.9 million in fiscal year 19 to 6.8 million in fiscal year 2023. Along with that, our operating costs have been increased. So we've got increased visitation, increased operating costs, and then our budget has fallen when you look at the price per, or excuse me, the funding per visitor that we're receiving here in BLM, Arizona. This is really also a critical thing to remember, that we have not increased fees at many of our sites in more than 20 years. I mean, that in itself speaks to why this is so important right now. And then, of course, what drove all of this was we actually wrote a policy that asked all of the offices to do a market analysis, looking at their existing fee sites and comparing those costs to similar opportunities offered by other providers. And it showed that we are definitely below the market rates. And then just a reminder that 100% of these fees that we collect go right back into the site where they're collected. Next slide, please. So what is coming? So we have completed draft business plans. So again, that's our fee proposal for these offices and sites. So in probably mid-May, we're going to be releasing these through a news release for the public comment period. We're doing all types of outreach to our stakeholders between now and then throughout that comment period. So Kingman Field Office is revising their business plan. That's for existing fee sites. Lake Havasu Field Office has a draft business plan that proposes a new fee site as well as fee increases at their existing fee sites. The Virgin River Canyon Rec Area in Arizona Strip Field Office has a draft business plan to increase fees at that site. That's one where I think it was 1997 was the last time we had a fee increase. And then Phoenix District, their proposal is for the shooting sports sites. So it's specific just to those sites. And then they're going to be working on a separate plan for existing and proposed campgrounds to look at fee increases or establishing fees where we meet that criteria. And then lastly, Vermilion Cliffs, Priya Canyon, Coyote Butte Special Management Area, and then White Pocket is a proposed new fee site. So you and everyone will have an opportunity. We're really looking forward to that public participation as we work through these fee proposals. Next slide, please.
Hang on, before you
Oh.
respond to that one, can you maybe give them a heads up on the Utah kind of tight end on
Yeah.
some of those?
You bet. So we do have in this batch of business plans, and there is going to be another batch that we're drafting right now that I'll tell you about. But this one in particular, not White Pocket, but this Priya Canyon Coyote Butte Special Management Area actually spills over into Utah. And so the last time we did a fee increase in this special management area was either 2006 or 2007. And what we did was we worked with the Utah RAC to establish who is going to be the lead RAC. And so we're going through that process right now. The majority, I think it's 88% of the acreage of that special management area is located in Arizona. So our recommendation is that you all would be the lead RAC on this draft business plan. And then what that means is that we will still be sharing it with the Utah RAC, but we won't be doing the presentation, or at least this is our proposal. No decisions have been made to date, but the presentation would be to you all so that we can request that recommendation from you, whether or not to implement that, yes.
Well, I'd like to make a comment to you that might be a little different way of looking at it. And that is, Jerry, I congratulate you and your team for going 20 years without having to raise anything. I wish we had other agencies that were on that same timeline. But you have done a magnificent job in keeping the cost down to the public, many of whom can't afford some of these fees. And obviously, probably can't. We'll see what your presentation is, but 20 years is a magnificent amount of time with a lot of energy. Good job done from my standpoint.
Thanks, Phil. That's a great comment. And that's kind of one of the many things that are driving this being such a priority for us. So it's not just the implementation of the blueprint, but it's really kind of that acknowledgement at that intersection of just the increased cost, the increased visitation, the demands upon the BLM, and then our constraints with our budgets and resources that we have. So really just we're at that point where we just have to do something to make sure that we have the resources necessary to provide the visitor experiences that the public expects when they come to these sites. And so with that in mind, actually, hopefully being able to go a considerable amount of time before we have to do this again. Larry and I, we could talk a little bit about how we're kind of proposing in the plans to help these kind of be a little more evergreen. And so hopefully it'll be, you know, quite a while before we're coming back before this group again, asking for new business plans.
Thanks, Sherry. On the next slide, before I address what he asked me to talk about, I just wanted to show you the locations of, you know, some of these are new proposed fee sites, like for example, the Phoenix, green marker there, that represents, you know, right now we have 4 constructed, shooting sports sites available, and we've already gone through the NEPA process and decision-making to approve construction of, 4 more. And so that marker represents, you know, that whole complex. So, I'm gonna try to avoid getting into the weeds of each proposal at this point, because we're still working through the finalization of the draft that will be going out. But that's an example of a new fee site. Another example of a new fee site is this proposed Quail Hollow campground over in the Lake Havasu field office. And then I mentioned earlier, White Pocket is also a proposed fee site, and that's within Vermilion Cliffs National Monument. So the indexing piece, so we are trying to write these business plans in a way so that, you know, if the fee increase is approved, that we're able to kind of keep up with the rate of inflation moving forward. And so you'll see in these draft business plans that we're actually proposing that if and when there's a 20% increase in the consumer price index, so the measure of just the rate of inflation, the cost of goods and services, if there's a 20% increase, then we would look at increasing our fees at that same rate, so a 20% increase. What does that look like in practicality? Obviously, inflation's been really high lately, but on average, I would say that if I had to guess, I would say that means a fee increase in about 5 years. Is that kind of hitting the mark?
Yeah, thanks. And I'll just add to that a little bit, and I saw your hand on the question that this is one of the things that we're kind of looking at and trying to figure out how do we implement this, both to reduce the workload associated with us and having to update the plans, but also trying to make sure that we can more consistently compare what future plans are, as well as our projections on what we might be able to expect. But those types of things on how that actually gets implemented, assuming, you know, that ends up being in the final plan, you know, it's kind of one of those things that, you know, we're looking for feedback from both, you know, this group as well as the public on what implementation of that might look like. You know, some of the fee increases are relatively small, and some of them are larger, just depending on how long it's been or what the amenities are, et cetera. And so all of those you'll hear about when we do those presentations on kind of what the implementation looks like. You know, is there a glide path, or is it more immediate once, you know, the waiting period, the 6-month waiting period elapses, different things like that. So we'll have some more conversations about exactly kind of what that looks like, and how, you know, exactly that's worked into the plans once we kind of get to that point. But I want to make you all aware that this is something that we're thinking about. I know we had brief mention of it, I think, at the last meeting. But also just acknowledging that, like what Bill said, we've gone a really long time, and I think that's a really nice thing for the public, particularly for those groups that might not be able to afford these fees. And kind of the socioeconomic analysis is definitely a part of our business plans that we're working on right now. And so that's something that we're trying to factor in, but we also need to find that balance point and making sure that we're getting the resources necessary to provide the quality experiences for those public that are coming out and paying. So like Miley said, maybe about every 5 years or so, there might be an expected increase, based on that CPI index. But, again, trying to find that balance point of, how we can kind of keep pace, but, making sure that we're still being reasonable, being understanding, providing those opportunities for the public. There will also still be free days and all those other type of things that, where some of these fees at least will not apply, and folks will still be able to enjoy those things.
Thanks, Jerry. When it comes to your policy, and I know it's still being formulated, but are you leaning toward, as you index for inflation, are you leaning toward a permissive, like a may increase, or is this going to be a shall? So that you don't have to revisit it, it just happens and you don't have to go out for public input or RAC input. You can just go ahead and implement.
So the way we drafted it is that we're looking for your input now on if we could have the option to implement that 20% fee increase if the CPI increases by 20%. That doesn't necessarily mean it happens overnight. We're looking at annual averages, not March to March. It'll be like looking at the whole year CPI, and then so the office would still have that option of implementing that fee increase or not. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think just to add on to that, in general, I think when we're looking at grading policies, particularly those that impact the public, as most of them do, but just in general for management, within BLM Arizona, we're looking for that way that we can maintain flexibility, because given the resources and the diversity of, the lands that we manage across the state, there's no one size fits all answer. And so to the extent that we can come up with consistent policies that maintain that flexibility of the managers that are responsible for this on a day-to-day basis, that's a total win for us, as well as the problems, so that we can factor in what those things look like.
Thanks. I know I mentioned this at the last meeting, the Act One Culture Pass through the libraries. And if folks haven't heard me mention it before, you can essentially go check out a pass at your library that lets you into the Desert Botanical Garden or other museums. And the whole point is to make sure everyone has access to arts, and we have petroglyphs at a lot of these locations. So just wanted to reemphasize, I think I would feel more comfortable with the increase in the, as inflation goes on, to increase the fees for the day use or camping. If BLM Arizona, if the Forest Service, county parks and Arizona State Parks could join that Culture Pass program. So essentially a family can only check out 2 Culture Passes a month, and that's for my family. So it's not like people would take advantage of that. And it's essentially, it's just something that helps it make sure there's equitable access. I also think Arizona Office of Tourism could support state parks, because now people are going to their libraries locally and saying, oh, BLM fee sites. Oh, where are those? Oh, okay, I'm going to go out and go check that out. And maybe they wouldn't have thought of that before. And now you have people going to maybe more rural areas, and now they're spending money, and it's helping with some of that rural economic development. So if there's any way that you all are able to look into that program, it's something that I think I personally, with the inflation increase, we're talking about increasing the fees so much for day use, that that's something I'd really like to see if possible.
Yeah, I did take your comment from the last meeting to heart, and I have been doing research on that. And what I did find is that, like, at least for the Forest Service and the BLM, the America the Beautiful Pass is controlled property, and there's one name and one signature on that pass. So that's how that pass system works. But for the local passes that we're working on, not every office is proposing a local pass, but that is something that we are exploring and looking into, is can we be part of that Culture Pass program? So thank you for that idea.
Yeah, in addition to that, we're also looking for opportunities, particularly out in Lake Havasu. I know we'll be having conversations with Arizona State Parks, because they have their pass for their sites on the lake, and we have ours for our sites on the lake, to figure out if there's a way that we can collaboratively, work together on something to try and simplify things for the visiting public.
So if we go back one slide, thank you. So these are the plans that are gonna be coming out. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna ask about the Golden Eagle and the federal passes. Are those all honored the same?
So the access pass and the senior pass, is that? Okay, so those at campgrounds and whatnot, they will often provide a 50% discount on like camping rates and whatnot. So yes, each plan will spell out how the passes are honored at that site. So that's what we're allowed to provide it. I can't remember if every campground is, because that is one optional thing. The discounts are per our policy, it's up to the authorized officer whether or not they want to give a 50% discount for things like camp. Does that answer your question?
Well, so you have a federal pass, what is it, $80 a year for
Yeah.
Grand Canyon and all the federal parks and national parks. So if you go to a BLM park, that pass does not work.
Okay, so that pass, the America the Beautiful pass, that provides for, it waives the standard amenity fees. So that would be like day use fee sites as opposed to like your campground fee.
So the pass does work for day use fee sites. But yeah, that's not the same. So I have one of those passes and I generally see about the 50% discount, but it is a discretionary thing. But that's where you would see that in each one of the plans when we make the specific presentations. You know, we'll lay that out for you online. This is what the authorized officer is proposing as far as the pass accepted.
A lot of our fee sites are campgrounds. And so the America the Beautiful pass would not, that's an expanded amenity fee for the campground. And it only works for the standard amenity fee, so it's like day use or entrance to a national park.
It would be, excuse me for interrupting, but it would be very helpful, at least for me, to see somebody come up with a list of all these passes and what they're for. I mean, I don't know how to get on the tunnel anymore. I need a trailer to bring the passes. But is there anybody from the tunnel here?
Yes.
Anyway. Quiet back there, isn't it? Anyway, they have added to them, and if somebody at some time in a future meeting could give us that information, it would be very helpful, at least for myself.
Yeah, I'm sure we can do that on a future agenda.
And we do include that on our fee-free days when we do the announcements. Because those are all the standard amenity fee sites that are free. So that's every place that where your pass would work. So. But yes, we'll absolutely follow up.
I just want to say, I would expect it to parallel the national parks, like where the entrance is part of the fee and then the camping is an extra amenity, so you just pay for extra for the camping, but the day use places should all be included. So that just to not confuse everybody on,
Yeah.
because it is frustrating when you're like, oh, I just bought this federal pass, but it doesn't work at federal places. Or state places, which is also confusing, but.
Whole nother topic.
All right, and then we also have local passes that we're proposing in some cases as well. Not to add any more confusion about passes, but yes, we can absolutely, that's something we can definitely work on is, where does this pass work kind of material, so. Was there a question?
Well, I'm sorry. I just saw something in the fee proposals and it was like $5 for day use, but then $20 for the year. For some sites, and I think this was an example from the Forest Service, but I thought that was really interesting because I was like, oh, okay, so if I live locally and I want to go more often, is that kind of for locals?
Well, we call it a site-specific pass, and that's the one where I believe we have the flexibility to use in the culture pass program.
Okay, because I could see too, just in general, that locals would be maybe more in favor of like, okay, I don't have to pay $5 every time I go, but if I go maybe you know, I can go spend $20 or something for the year. Just, I thought that was a good, I like that flexibility.
Absolutely, and I know specifically as part of the Phoenix shooting sports sites plan, that we do have options in there. We actually have a day use fee, there's a monthly fee being proposed, and then an annual fee. So depending on what your use is, you know, we have seasonal folks who aren't here the whole year, maybe that makes more sense for them. So we are looking where we can provide that.
Great questions, thank you. Next slide, please. So what you're not seeing is, we're still working on the fee proposals for the Gila district, the campground proposals for Phoenix district, and then Yuma will be the next round of business plans that you all will be seeing. Next slide, please. But this is just an example of what we're going to be releasing with our news release, which is a link to a story map, so you can see exactly, you know, where these sites are and what the proposal is, and click right from there to make your comment. You can't see it right here because the button's right here, but you know, you can email your comments in right from this story map. So hopefully we're providing, you know, the key information in a very user-friendly way for the public to see what we're proposing, where it is, and participate in this process, because that's what we're looking for are your comments. So next slide, please. So, and then, yeah, just, I know I had this slide last time, but I just want to remind everyone that the majority of our 12.1 million acres of public lands in Arizona are fee-free for camping, hiking, all that kind of stuff. So next slide, please. So now I wanted to talk a little bit about how we're leveraging new technologies to improve fee collection and increasing outdoor recreation opportunities. So when you gave that example of the culture passes, as we're thinking about onboarding some of our fee sites that aren't already in recreation.gov, that is a way that makes our sites more accessible to a much broader audience. To get curious about some of these, you know, rural areas that BLM may offer, you know, this awesome campsite. And so by continuing to improve our use of technology, we're going to be able to, in turn, you know, reduce our cash handling, minimize risk of fraud and abuse. You know, we've had full fee tubes vandalized before, so increase compliance when we have other opportunities and options for people to actually pay that don't require a check or a cash, or I think they even say money order. You know, you could pay on site, so we're giving visitors more options on how to pay once they get to where they're going. And then this in turn allows our staff, which, as you know, is quite limited, to spend more time focused on providing, you know, visitor services and improving those sites instead of counting cash and fee envelopes and going to the bank and making those deposits, scanning checks, all that sort of stuff. Next slide, please. So another use of technology, actually, if you could go to the next slide. So in Arizona, we have over 300 active special recreation permits. These are commercial, competitive, organized group events and activities. And in the past, you would actually have to fill out the form and bring that into the BLM office. And then if you go back a slide, sorry for the order tweaks up there. So now we have what's called Raptor, the Recreation and Permit Tracking Online Reporting System, which allows special recreation permit applicants to apply online and allows BLM users to use that system through, you know, our computers to administer the permits. There's transparency on both sides. There's a tracking system on the timeline. It connects with our other systems so that applicants can actually pay fees online. So huge advancement, and if you could skip 2 slides. So these are all the offices currently in Raptor, and we're gonna be onboarding the Phoenix district, so Lower Sonoran and Hacienda this year, and then Yuma next fiscal year. And since fiscal year 22, when we started using Raptor in Arizona, we've already issued over 15 permits through this system. So it's been a success, and I don't know if anybody wants to add anything to that. Wayne, I know your district's kind of been the.
I believe all the SRB, all the commercial permit holders, they were reluctant at first because it's change and it has a lot of hunter guides and stuff, and they like their system. But I think they've seen that, you know, if they get it in, we could get it processed in a day or two if the NEPA is already complete. So it's a lot quicker, and I think that they're catching on. Even some of the older permittees out there, they're enjoying the system now. So it's been a success so far.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I also just want to highlight, as you can see on the first slide, talking about Raptor, we're also looking at using that for additional types of permits. So that's paleontology and scientific research. So same thing like what Miley said with the SLPs, that stuff had to come in, you know, either on paper or on a PDF and get routed around to a bunch of people. So we're also looking at the system to increase the efficiency of issuing permits for those uses as well.
Sure. All right, shifting gears, now we're gonna talk about pillar 4, which is meet the demand, protect resources, and improve access. So we are. Oops. Yeah, that's the one, thank you. We have several travel management plans underway. They're all listed here on the next map. Well, I'll just call out the names here, and then on the next map, you'll see where these are, and then I'll talk about kind of where we're at in each one of the process. So Kingman Field Office, this plan is it covers 2.7 million acres of public lands. So it's pretty much the whole field office. Lower Colorado River, and Yuma East / Gila River and Imperial Hills, those are all out of the Yuma field office. And then down in the Gila district, we are working on the Gila San Simon plan, which is at the Safford field office, and Middle Gila South out of the Tucson field office. So next slide, please. So I already talked about the scale of the Kingman plan there, but let me back up and just explain what the colors are on this map. So gray are areas that we've already completed travel management plans. The green is what we are planning to get, the final EA, the final travel management plan released this fiscal year with the decision. So that includes Kingman, the two I was talking about in Yuma field office. So this is Lower Colorado River, and that's Imperial Hills. And then also in the Tucson field office, this large one here, which is Middle Gila South, that is 212,000 acres. So those are the ones we are working hard to complete this fiscal year. Some of these that I was talking about on the last slide that are underway are going to spill over in the next fiscal year. So included in that batch are the two sort of orangish colored ones. So Yuma East Gila River. That one covers about 700,000 plus acres of BLM administered lands. And also the Gila San Simon over on the east side there in the Stafford field office. And that one covers 951,000 acres. The purplish color are kind of the out years. So we still have several more travel management plans to complete. I guess what I'll share is that, let's see, all of the ones in green or that orangish color have already released the draft, the preliminary travel management plan and the draft EA for public comment period. So they're working on that final right now. Whereas this, except for this one, which is Yuma East Gila River, and that we are looking to have public meetings, and release that draft at the end of June, so. That's kind of where we're at. Are there any questions about? All right.
Are you guys working with the solar energy applicants then on the travel management plans? Like, are you kind of trying to think ahead then for where those solar energy projects might go?
Yeah, so as we're working, the ID team, as we're going through what we call route evaluations, we have those polygons of where these proposed projects are. And so the interdisciplinary team is taking that into consideration. Proposed designations.
I know in some cases you're actually requiring the solar energy companies to prepare or develop alternate routes through your trails going through their areas.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know the details of all of them. So if anybody wants to jump in on that. If there's, okay, thank you. That pretty much concludes my entire presentation, so I'm sure, do you have any other questions for me? Yes.
Sorry. So disc golf has become really popular activity. When we were doing the Maricopa County Parks Vision 2030 plan, we received a lot of public comments about folks wanting to do more, have more opportunities for disc golf. I also see an opportunity for possibly like a fee associated with that could help to maintain some of those sites. And again, it's something that it's an activity that tends to be good for like all ages. Even AARP did a great article about disc golf. Because when you play, you can just throw a few more times to catch up to the person ahead of you as opposed to just falling behind. So do you know, we're talking about increasing recreation opportunities. Has there been any talk with BLM Arizona for possibly opportunities for more disc golf courses in the state?
That's an interesting comment. To my knowledge, I don't think we're working on any proposals of that nature, but I do know that in Cedar City, they did build a disc golf course on public lands, and I'm not sure if it's a peace site, but yeah.
Yeah, they were doing something in near Maricopa, and somebody's like, oh, it's on state land or BLM land, and whatever it was, they were confused as to whose land it was on. But they were doing like a temporary disc golf course to do a tournament style thing.
Okay.
But definitely there's folks who are looking for more places, I think, for tournaments. Maricopa County Parks didn't seem super interested in disc golf courses because they're quality natural areas. So I think in some spots where maybe there's less intrinsic, value in environmental quality, maybe there's some opportunity. I just want to throw it out there.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can touch on that. We, not disc golf, but in our district, we do have a couple of golf courses that are similar to that. But the way that works is through a recreation purpose management lease to the county. And the county basically oversees that. So the potential for what you're speaking of could be there, but it would have to be negotiated, and the county would basically want to have to spearhead and fund something like that in coordination with BLM. So that would be the local, county working with the agency to see where potential for opportunities like that exists.
Yeah, and I'll just add to what William said, that it wouldn't have to be a county, it could be
other
public
Yeah,
entity
public,
or a tribe.
Yeah.
Could receive an art.
There is a disc golf course on I don't know how official it is, but on Prescott National Forest, and they just throw at the trees. So they don't have baskets. It's just like painted on the trees, and it's really fun. You guys got to get out there more and go try to play some disc golf. It's really good to get people outside. Well, I guess it depends on where you are.
Or BLM, no. Any other questions? Back over to you, Bill, was.
Is that wrap it up, Jerry?
Yes, sir.
Well, we have a little extra time, which is good because this gets us out before everybody comes down the elevators and you can't get anything to eat. So why don't we go ahead and break now and then Connie, do me a favor and be back here by 1:05.
Bill.
I think, Bill, if it's okay, maybe we'll try to, since we're getting out a little bit early, we can get back maybe closer to like 12:45. We did just get word that Ray and Tracy, our BLM director, they are on time, so they're going to actually come back here. And Tracy's gonna come up and come in and spend a little bit of time with us, which is kind of cool. So we will we could get everybody back a little bit before 1, just so we're all settled in here. Yeah.
We can do that in 12:45 is what you're
She'll
suggesting.
be here right at 1, so folks can be back like right around, you know. We
In
see
your
12:45,
chairs.
I think
In
you're
your
a little bit
chairs.
back around
Yeah.
12:55.
And not just that, but if
Let's be real.
Yeah. Bill, if I can actually get her in here a few minutes before 1, because we've got to get to ASU at, like, leave at 1:30, to just try to get as much time as we can, we'll do that. So if we could do 12:45, then we have, maybe have a little more time.
I really don't care if she gets ASU. No, that would be super, and I'm sure you all know this is very busy lady, and she was, I think you told me, Amber, that she wanted to come to this meeting and meet everybody, and so it's a real honor for her to be here, so.
We didn't say anything because we didn't know how our, how schedules go, but it's been a priority. So yeah, it looks like they'll be able to make it.
Sort of the
small
she was looking forward to it.
I will see you at 12:45, okay?